Hey, welcome back to Title Talk with Title Leap. I'm James Brown. I'm a Florida real estate attorney and founder of Title Leap.
And I am David Velez. I am a closer extraordinaire and chief development officer of Title Leap.
And he has been flexing that extraordinaire muscle lately, that is for sure.
It happened. Coronavirus. So this whole thing is changing the world we live in, the world that we work in specifically, Jim.
Yeah.
We are getting so many calls about people wanting to back out of deals and, what's their responsibility? Does force majeure apply? So
Exactly, yeah.
How does this work exactly?
So last week we talked about force majeure and its effect on third parties, banks, inspectors, appraisers, things like that. And certainly force majeure is an event of delay, and if it persists for a long enough period of time, a chance for everybody to avoid the contract, an opportunity for everybody to avoid the contract. It's not a get out of jail free card.
Right. So, in other words, they do have to eventually perform on the contract.
Yes. When the event of force majeure subsides, then there's a short period of time for everybody to perform, and if force majeure persists for a long enough period of time, 30 days, then the contract can be avoided by all parties.
Interesting. So, it seems like, because no one knows how long this whole coronavirus thing might be around, so...
And that's a good segue into today's discussion.
Okay. So today, what are we going to talk about? There's an addendum specifically for the coronavirus issue?
We're going to talk about the addendum next week. This week we're going to talk about that event that kept coming up today. The buyer who was getting the loan and he was unemployed at the restaurant and couldn't close. So is being unemployed generally an event of force majeure? No.
No.
So a restaurant that made a bad decision and they have to downsize and somebody gets unemployed at the last minute, not an event of force majeure, not a way to avoid a contract, better hurry up and find another job and get pre-qualified. And we're talking specifically about a buyer who has been pre-qualified for a loan and the loan approval period has timed out and you have a closing date approaching and a lender says we're not going to lend anymore.
So he had already been approved essentially, but the lender is reneging and...
Pull the loan off the table.
Right.
So if the borrower is out of employment and a lender says I'm not going to lend to somebody that's unemployed and the unemployment is due to the restaurant layoffs as a result of corona, and that's verifiable obviously from every other restaurant in the community laying people off.
Right.
Our buyer can't go out and get another job real quick.
No, because all the restaurants are closed.
All the restaurants are closed. That would be arguably a good event of a good opportunity to invoke force majeure for the buyer.
Right.
Avoid the contract, and I think you would be hard pressed to find a judge who would not award the deposits to the buyer. I think you're gonna tell the judge, Your Honor, I was downsized, laid off. There's no employment for me.
Right.
I couldn't get my loan. And the lender won't lend, and I think the fact that the lender won't lend would be an event of force majeure if it was the downsizing was a result of the coronavirus and lower business and all that stuff.
So now we've fielded a couple calls from sellers, obviously on this side, concerned that their buyers might back out or whatever. What do you tell them in that case? Is it like try to take the high road?
Well, we just had a seller want to cancel a contract where the buyer was a cash buyer and the buyer was invoking this general force majeure kind of, I want to get out of this thing, no judge is going to make me adhere to the contract. I don't believe that is an event of force majeure. I think that seller would have a right to sue for specific performance. There is no loan, and so I think that the seller would have a strong argument in that case, and the buyer is not in a great position.
So that was the buyer, it was a cash buyer.
That was a cash buyer,
okay,
right.
Right.
Different set of facts when a transaction won't fund because a bank won't lend because the borrower lost their job as a result of a coronavirus. Totally different set of facts.
So now the set of facts here seem to follow that the buyer is afraid that market values will deteriorate, and you can't really use that as an excuse to not perform.
No, I don't believe that would be an excuse to avoid performance.
Right.
And in his situation, he was going out to get a loan. It was a cash contract, and he was trying to avoid because he couldn't get the loan, but it was a cash contract, and so regardless of what everybody was aware of, it's still a cash deal.
So, in the absence of the coronavirus, he would still have to perform no matter what, whether he got the loan or not.
I believe so.
Cash deal, right?
Yep, I believe so.
Right.
And everything's going to be very fact specific, but in this situation, I don't think the fact that your stock account was worth X before the stock market crash, and now you're the stock market receding. It's not a crash, but and then your stock value is worth this, and when you go to sell, it's going to be real losses. I don't think that's a way to escape performance based on force majeure.
Right.
I just want to look through my notes real quick. Don't forget, there's the interesting question is, what if the borrower can find other work, say as an Amazon driver? So we have our buyer who can't get his loan because he's unemployed.
Right.
And then he goes out and the lender won't fund, but he could get a job as, let's just say, an Amazon driver and qualify for the loan.
Right.
These are issues that are going to have to be worked out. Like, how far does the buyer have to go to try to get work so he could avoid the contract?
Yeah, I mean,
and those are the nuances I think that are going to come up.
Right, and the buyer's still willing and the seller's still willing. I'm pretty sure they could work something out, but
that's definitely true too.
At the end of the day, it's like, what if the seller needs to close by a certain time and the buyer, does get the other job, but it takes the lender X amount of time to get the whole thing, reapproved or whatever, Well,
don't forget, force majeure is your ability of buyers or a seller's ability to delay performance without it being in breach.
Right.
It's designed to be a tool to remedy the inability of parties to perform, not a way to excuse performance. And so once he could get the job, let's just say force majeure displaced him. He was displaced as a result of force majeure, and he went out and he found another job. He'd have 7 days to actually perform beyond the removal of the force majeure. It gets a little fuzzy when we start talking about reemployment, but that's the general concept.
Right.
And don't forget that lenders can pull out when appraisals don't meet the criteria of the loan approval. And loan approval is a term defined in the Florida FAR Bar 2017 as a specific event. And so if the buyer's lender, and I'm going to pull up the FAR Bar, if the buyer's lender's appraisal of the property obtained is insufficient to meet the terms of loan approval, in which event the buyer shall be refunded the deposits, thereby releasing everybody. The contract doesn't give any time frames when that has to occur by.
That's interesting, because I've seen appraisals redone at the last, right before closing. Usually appraisal is an event that happens a couple of weeks before the closing, but you see a lot of what they call these review fees or desk review fees, where they kind of review the appraisals. Right. So yeah,
and I think that this is an issue that doesn't come up when markets are rising, right? So we've been a rising market since 2014, 2013. Right. And now this issue is going to come up again and again because lenders are going to recast their appraisals just prior to closing. And if lenders do pull out, it becomes an interesting discussion. But the contract does make a provision for the buyer to get their deposit back and avoid performance if the lender pulls out because the appraisal is insufficient.
Wow.
There are interesting terms in the provision. It says meet the terms of loan approval, and we don't see that many loan approvals where it says the property has to appraise for $300,000.
Right.
It'll usually say something like the property has to appraise or something.
Right.
And we don't know that black box behind the scene with what that magic number is, so that'll be an interesting discussion. But I wanted to point out that provision is in the contract. And what was some... Oh, next week we'll talk about that addendum, the Corona addendum.
Right, because it seems like it was made specifically for this whole situation.
Yep. And there's a provision in there that I like. When I initially saw it, I wasn't that fond of it, but there is something that I like.
So thank you for watching Title Talk with Title Leap.
And stay tuned for more episodes of Title Talk where we will explore more coronavirus issues. Thanks for watching.
Hey there, I'm Ashley. I'm the Digital Media and Marketing Specialist here at Title Leap. I make all of these videos, so it really means a lot to me that you're here at the end of this video. So if you want to see more, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell icon so that way you can get a notification every time we post a new video. But if you're not really a YouTube person, you can also see our video content on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. The coronavirus and all of its effects are really turning our industry upside down, so we know how important it is to stay up to date. So make sure you follow us on our social media channels so you can see every new bit of content as it comes. Thanks.
one more time.